Portland, P-Town. They are down to one full-time traffic officer as speeding tickets plummet. Not surprising, right? Not surprising. I get the same feeling driving around here in Seattle. I'm in downtown Seattle, not downtown Seattle, but Seattle proper fairly often. And I got to thinking the other day, when's the last time I got pulled over in Seattle for doing anything? I've had a headlight out for a little while now. It's one of those headlights that can't replace it myself. YouTube did. It's just horrible to fix. So I'm just driving around Seattle with one headlight, drive-by cops all the time. I used to get pulled over for that. Well, they've got better things to do. They're not really pulling folks over. And Portland is especially not pulling people over for things like speeding, running red lights, basic safety maneuvers that you'll find on a road. We're not doing that anymore. So yeah, if you want to go have a Mad Max kind of driving experience, go to Portland. It'll work out. It'll be in your favor. Speeding citations are way down, and it's not because drivers aren't speeding. City of Portland only has one full-time traffic officer now. One. You might ask, well, what happened to the rest? Well, we had that whole defund the police thing, and tough time recruiting new cops. Got an interesting quote in here somewhere from Joanne Hardesty. That individual is so embarrassing that people of Portland actually voted her as the city commissioner. So embarrassing. So embarrassing. Portland's complaints about dangerous driving, speeding, and street racing are starting to get as loud as the noisy exhausts that reverberate through parts of the city. It's one of those things, right? Loud exhaust, so it's just like, that sound just drives me crazy. If I wanted to go to the racetrack, I'd go to the racetrack and listen to, Toyotas and Hondas with exhaust systems that are limited at best. Just that 4-banger noise coming through what they call an exhaust pipe. It's like, okay, yeah, all right, I get it. You got a really, really noisy Honda or Toyota. I understand. Seasoned runner and cyclist Daniel Hough is unfortunately used to close calls with cars on the roads, but after having a brief altercation with the driver that cut him off, just took a little too close, he called Portland police. As you do. I was almost run over. All right. Here's what they said. 2 weeks later, Hough said that their response was that there's really not much the police bureau can do right now because there is no traffic enforcement program. He said police told him the program was entirely defunded. Police, and I've talked about this many, many times, police is like any business. You only have so many employees to do so many tasks. And if you cut that down and cut that down and cut that down, there's only going to be so much that you're actually going to be able to cover. Well, getting hit by a car while you're on a bicycle right now, that's not one of those things that's even on the top 10. Just not even there, right? As it turns out, the Portland Police Bureau has only one full-time designated traffic officer. His name is Sergeant Ty Engstrom. When I first came to the traffic division, we had 35 motorcycles and probably 10 or 12 cars back in 2009. Before they dismantled everything, we were down to about 18 or 19 motorcycles and one car. And now we're down to one motorcycle full time. That explains a lot, right? I mean, I talk about the street racing fairly regularly here. Street racing, how are they? Same cars, the Toyotas, Hondas, whatever it is, souped up. They're really fast and the furious type thing. And, they do donuts in the middle of a public intersection. Just some real tomfoolery going on, right? It just doesn't do anything for me. That's kind of why the whole Fast and the Furious thing for me was like, Vin Diesel's cool, like him. Paul Walker, he was epic. The Rock, pretty cool. And some fun storylines. But the whole essence of it, street racing, I'm a hard no-go. That's just me, though. I'm not really a car guy. Dismantling refers to the reassignment of officers in the traffic division to help with staffing shortages within precinct. Portland police staffing dropped from 934 sworn officers in June of 2020 to 554 in June of 2021. Sworn officers. Is that correct? Is that number? Wow. If that number is correct, that's even less than I thought were there. That is sworn officers. Okay. If staffing permits, then precincts will send officers out on traffic patrol, Sergeant Engstrom said. He added that most of the time if it's grants from the Oregon Department of Transportation that fund overtime for heightened enforcement efforts around speeding, seatbelts, DUIs, and other traffic offenses. So you hear about those fairly often. Like you've got an emphasis patrol going on. So the one police officer that's, supposed to cover traffic, Sergeant Engstrom, he's basically saying, hey, it's Oregon, it's state money that's funding us. It's not even, the city of Portland's police budget. The lack of traffic patrols is showing up in the number of speeding tickets issued by Portland Police Bureau. From February to June of 2021, total citations were down 80% compared to the same 5-month span last year. I noticed cars in Seattle, not necessarily Bellevue, because Bellevue hasn't defunded or anything. We've still got a lot of cops in Bellevue. But in Seattle, where everything's just gone down the wrong road, I noticed people just flooring it, stuff they didn't used to do, things that I would still be, running over medians, just crazy traffic stuff. And it makes sense because, you can do it and get away with it. Why wouldn't you if that's your thing? So when people tell me, you can't do that, I'm like, well, actually you can. You shouldn't. It's against the law. You shouldn't, but you're not going to get busted for it. So yeah, here's that. City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty had this to say when asked about Portland Police Bureau's inability to perform traffic enforcement within the city. This is the city commissioner. This is what is so wrong with Portland right now. It's irresponsible for the Portland Police Bureau to continue spinning a narrative that there is no longer traffic enforcement occurring in our city and that their staffing shortage is a result of council decisions, when it is the result of their own failure to create a culture that attracts people to their long-standing vacancies. It's worth noting that every sworn officer is technically a traffic cop with the legal ability to enforce traffic laws. Now, why that is just some nonsense? They don't have enough cops. The cops that they do have, they're out answering priority 1 and priority 2 calls. They don't have any manpower for anything else. End of story. And this is why you've got so many issues in Portland. It's knuckleheads like this who just don't really care about public safety. They don't really care about their citizens. They're just up there, rah, 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 and it's all a bunch of nonsense. That's the way I see it. It's just really discouraging to know that if a hardened runner, an experienced cyclist, and a pedestrian like me is feeling scared, that most people that are just starting to experience engaging with walking and riding and running on the streets, they're not going to feel safe. So no, they're not. And you shouldn't feel safe because you don't have anybody out on the streets that basically that presence, a police presence, to make people say, all right, we need to slow down. We need to abide by the speed limit. Because if we don't, we're going to get a ticket. We're going to get whatever. You're going to get reckless driving. You're going to get whatever it is. None of that anymore. Tickets are down 80%. That means only 20% of what we used to be doing. That's not much. Portland's a big city, right? Big city. The Portsmouth Neighborhood Association recently sent an email to the city urging action, including aggressive use of speed cameras. We will follow up in the city's response. Well, this is a city that's got a lot of issues. Traffic violations isn't going to be one. Now, my next story that I'm not going to fully read, but it totally dovetails, is that Portland pedestrian deaths have reached a 70-year high, police say. All right. That makes sense, doesn't it? Okay. You got a bunch of cars, running around, and you've got homeless people. Half of all the pedestrian fatalities in Portland are homeless people living in tents. They're living near busy streets. So you've got no enforcement of traffic laws. I mean, we just don't have the manpower, don't have the capacity to do it. And then you got people living right, and Portland has tried to clean out homeless encampments along busy roads. But that has historically caused, those are some of the factors that have caused a 70-year high in pedestrian death in death rate in Portland because of these factors. It's like, oh, yeah, didn't really see that one coming. Okay. Yeah. But it makes sense. It plays out, right? City of Portland has already had more than 60 people die in traffic crashes this year, according to numbers from Portland Police Bureau. I'll just read a couple of sentences from the beginning of this one. Since the beginning of the year, there are at least 31 pedestrians have died on Portland streets after being hit by a vehicle. That number ties death tolls last seen in 1952 and 1950. Oh my gosh. When you got to go back to the 50s to come up with similar data, you're like, okay. So yeah, this is not an improvement. We're going back to the 50s, not even going back to the 60s when I was born, going back to the 50s. The Eisenhower era? I think so. It's clear that despite advances in technology, infrastructure, education, and awareness, we are still not solving the problem, and our traffic fatalities are epidemic levels, said David Baer, an officer with the Portland Police Bureau's major crash team. You got these situations where you did the social experiment. Well, what happens if we defund the police and crap all over policing as a profession? And yeah, there aren't enough police to basically cover the public safety of citizenship of a town the size of Portland. What happens then? Well, people get run over. People get hit in car crashes. Yeah, sometimes they're homeless folks. So all of this to me, it makes sense. It makes sense in the fact that this is that social experiment that has gone wildly sideways. And now we are reaping the rewards, meaning you've got record number of homicides, murders in Portland, right? You've got all kinds of other crime statistics, shootings in general. You've got weekends that are just filled with like Chicago type violence. You've got pedestrians dying in record numbers. Those are not good things. You got crazy people walking into other people's houses, taking naps on 10-year-olds' beds. You got people on meth, bashing out windows. We've covered all those things. Yeah, it's just not reasonable, is it? No, but it's going to continue till you start to change some of the politicians out for those who are doing their thing. And the laws. You got to get a handle on some of these laws because now I think we can identify, all right, that one, not so much. All right, we decriminalized this. Maybe we need to reimagine and rethink making that illegal again and putting a little, reason for somebody to not commit that crime. How about that? It's way too reasonable. We're not doing that. But flip side is I'm going to have podcasts for days. That's what we're doing. All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great holiday season. We're saying holiday season. We're not saying Merry Christmas because that would be racist or something. I can't even remember what that is. Happy Hanukkah, if that's your thing. Go celebrate you. I'll do my thing. I don't do anything too crazy. I have Christmas Eve with family, but most of my cousins are gone this year. Who knows where they are? One's in Australia, one's in Mexico, one's probably in Hawaii or Yakima or somewhere. Yeah, just going to the four winds. I stay home and just kind of hang out, and maybe my kids will come by and throw me a gift. I don't know, but I love the holidays. I think they're a great time, and I like doing nothing on the holidays. So if that's your thing, if you want to watch YouTube all day long, go for it. I hope you don't. That's kind of whatever. It's your holiday. Do what you want. Thanks for being here. We'll catch up soon. Talk then. Bye for now.